For too long, we have sat idly by. For too long, we have allowed this to continue. This corruption in the gaming industry, this strange, inexplicable bias towards PlayStation. We have long suffered under this delusion that PlayStation is somehow this center of new, innovative ideas in video games. For too long, we've put up with this mindset that Nintendo is for kids and that PlayStation reigns supreme. PlayStation's more popular. This is where the third parties get more backing from PlayStation. For too long, we've bought into this narrative. For too long, we've just sat by and accepted it. It is time to put an end to this. It is time for us to go to war. There is no reason for the PlayStation platform to exist in its current form. PlayStation and virtually all of its games are capable of running on Nintendo Switch. There is no reason why games like Yakuza 7, Persona 5R, Monster Hunter World, and many, many others, there is no reason why these games should not be on Switch. These companies continue to make excuses, make justifications, and when the opportunity arises, they will always abandon Nintendo for the PlayStation platform in a desperate attempt to get more sales. Looking at you, Platinum Games. It is time to put an end to this. This is completely unacceptable. It is time to seriously push against the PlayStation brand, against the PlayStation fans, and against this PlayStation exclusive bias. It isn't the Xbox, it isn't the PC, it is the PlayStation. They are the ones taking these games and ruining them. Why isn't it a funny coincidence how all of these iconic 90s IPs that were so popular and so famous on PlayStation, Final Fantasy, Metal Gear, Spyro, Crash, isn't it amazing how all of these franchises are dead now? Isn't it amazing, with no real chance of recovery? Isn't it amazing how games like Final Fantasy can continue to get mediocre after mediocre release and yet still receive positive publication? Isn't it amazing how games like Metroid Other M or Paper Mario Sticker Star can come out, be controversial, and then go on to create entire communities of people who revolve their entire lives around hating these games? Meanwhile, the vast, the entire ocean of bad PlayStation games, of bad third-party games, are completely forgotten. Isn't it amazing how the PlayStation Vita, which had absolutely nothing of value to offer to anyone, is considered a cult classic handheld and a favorite among the niche crowd, while the Wii U, a vastly superior console with stellar, amazing games that went on to become bestsellers on the Nintendo Switch. A console like that is completely shit on and ignored and made fun of and mocked by the most disgusting, despicable people imaginable. The most autistic individuals on the internet. It is time to put an end to this. It is time to actively rally, to rail against the PlayStation Nation and everything they stand for. There is no reason that games like The Wonderful 101 should be on Kickstarter. It was PlayStation that normalized the concept of a mainstream developer that is still active in the business, that hasn't been fucked over by a publisher, to go in and advertise a video game with Shenmue 3, which has come out and has been a disaster. Not that anyone's talking about that. Kickstarters need to go. From these corporations, it is completely unacceptable. Perhaps if you're a small indie team, it may be acceptable. And in fact, there are plenty of small indie Kickstarters that I personally enjoy. But to even suggest that kickstarting a port is acceptable, this should not fly. It is not acceptable, and I want to push against this kind of mindset to prevent a company like this doing this for any reason in the future. I do not want to see another Mighty Number 9. I don't want to see another Bloodstained. I want to see a properly funded, properly backed game by industry professionals. It is not good for the community to be expected to support projects like this. It is completely unacceptable, and I downright condemn everyone involved with the Wonderful 101 Kickstarter. That includes Platinum Games, Nintendo, and the community that supported that Kickstarter. We need to put a stop to this. We also need to push back against mobile games and microtransactions and exploitative DLC. It is not good enough to simply boycott and not support these products, because they're still being advertised, they're still being hyped up, and they're still being played by complete idiots. We need to push through laws. We need to control. We need to put in some kind of cap in how this works, because it really does play off of people's addictions. People think this kind of behavior of just playing these phone games casually, they think that's normal, just throwing down, paying money to win something. DSP, it's become apparent recently that he spent $40,000 on this mobile game in order to be like the fourth best in the world or something like that. That pay-to-win features are definitely a no-go. We do need to discuss exactly how these limitations should work, what the cap should be, what companies are allowed to do. We are open to discussion on that front, but there needs to be limitations, and there needs to be an outright stop to the idea of these kinds of features creeping into AAA games. There is no reason why companies like Activision should be having microtransactions in Call of Duty, pay-to-win features in these $60 games. Star Wars Battlefront 2 features them heavily, right? We need to reform this kind of stuff. It needs to be something that isn't allowed at all, because companies cannot be expected to remain moral in this circumstance. I fully expect Nintendo to go microtransaction heavy in the future. Animal Crossing New Horizons very well may have microtransactions, and I would highly suggest people boycott that game if that is the case. This microtransactions in a $60 game is completely unacceptable. There are, of course, other things we need to pass. We need to consider, the PC market's place in all of this, where what the relationship between Valve and Nintendo is going to be like. But I think the long and short of it is that Nintendo needs to be the only console on the market. PlayStation and Xbox need to go. They have done nothing but bring toxic, unhealthy business practices to the industry. I would very much like Nintendo to get rid of paid online. I don't think it's possible to ask that of them while there's still competition doing it. But if there wasn't any competition, it very well may be possible. Third parties need to support Nintendo more heavily, of course. More heavily means every single game needs to be coming to Nintendo Switch. No exceptions. All games should be coming out on Switch right away, as soon as they're available. No exceptions. It's probably going to take a while for the PS5 and Xbox Series X to phase out and stop and sort of leave the industry, so to speak. So until PlayStation and Xbox do leave the industry, the Switch should be supported alongside the other consoles with the exact same release dates and the exact same games, with no differences between them whatsoever. There is no justification to continue making excuses as to why you're not supporting the Switch. Are the Yakuza devs going to continue pretending that adults don't play Switch? Are Atlas going to continue rehashing Persona 5 on PlayStation 5? Are they going to continue with what they've been doing with Final Fantasy? Are they going to seriously release another Kingdom Hearts collection on PlayStation without even a tease for a Nintendo release? We're not going to let that happen. We are going to demand that these games come out on Nintendo hardware where they should have been to begin with and will be forevermore. This is war.